Hello. So the topic we chose was preserving biodiversity by protecting pollinators because we believe this is the biggest grand challenge facing our ecosystem today, or the one that we at least feel the most passionate about.
What is biodiversity? Biodiversity is the richness and variety of life on Earth. Genetic species and ecological biodiversity are the different types that exist. Every animal and plant needs a certain environment to be able to live, and that's why biodiversity is important, because when they are brought together, that creates that perfect environment. Animals need a certain food or food group to be able to survive, and without that food group, there's no real biodiversity in the area because they need a large selection. How is biodiversity threatened? The main reasons that it is threatened are deforestation, habitat loss, and urbanization, which obviously humans are the leading cause of this. Another big one is global warming. With the Earth heating up, a lot of habitats are changing, and animals are moving to go to places that they just kind of fit better in now, and that's really damaging the ecosystem. Another one is pesticides and fertilizers. As much as fertilizers aren't doing it as much, pesticides are killing off very important insect species, which, as much as people don't want to admit that they like insects, they're very important for the ecosystem, as many animals feed off of them. Over-harvesting, this kind of goes with deforestation and stuff like that. Plenty of the trees are being just taken down, plenty of the plants are being taken, just too much stuff is being taken from the habitats. Invasive species, I feel like that's kind of self-explanatory. They're kind of just going into these habitats that aren't their own and taking out all the species that match their ecological requirements. And so what does this mean?
Pollinators are essential for producing and preserving biodiversity in an ecosystem. 87.5% of wild plants globally depend on animal pollination for fertilization. 40% of global agriculture also depends on insect labor. It's estimated between $235 and $577 billion worth of annual global food production rely on these contributions. So the question is, what can we do to help aid these insects in preserving our biodiversity? Well, we can campaign for the addition and protection of areas of land dedicated for these pollinator species. These areas of land will help pollinators preserve biodiversity. If pollinators have dedicated land where they have plants to flourish and grow in, they will increase the biodiversity within that area simply because they are given a catalyst to do so. Meanwhile, in an area without pollinators, the biodiversity won't have a way to grow.
The experiment will have 10 fields, 1 acre each, and they will be chosen all within the same environment and ecosystem. 5 will be our control group, and no pollinator-specific areas will be dedicated, and no pollinators will be added. We won't remove any, but we won't add any. 5 will have pollinator-specific areas added, adding pollinator-specific plants native to the area, and a variety of plants will be added in the experimental population for specific seasons, so pollinators will have bloom roughly year-round. The amount of biodiversity in a control group and experimental group will be measured at the start of each January to December to measure the different diversity and biodiversity that has increased in an area. The data collected will be from a number of different plant species in each acre, the number of different pollinator species per acre, and the number of predatory insects per acre, as well as the density of all the prior subjects listed. These will be taken from each month out of the year, and for both the control group and the experimental group, the months will be compared to one another to see if there was any increase or any outliers for specific months. Any increase in mammal groups, either primary, secondary, tertiary consumers, or keystone species, will also be measured to see if there is an influx of species coming back or a revival of species based on biodiversity.
Since we already have an opinion of pollinators, there is a personal bias that they will improve the biodiversity in an ecosystem automatically. We will assume that they would have a positive impact. However, in order to properly conduct the experiment, we need to exclude our biases and realize that they may not flourish in their new environment. So we stated that our null hypothesis would be that with the right material, such as flowers and land, the biodiversity will increase as the pollinators will have the opportunity to thrive, and there will be a clear indication of a positive relationship between pollinators and biodiversity. Our alternative hypothesis is that even with the right material and land, there would not be any changes. And a way to falsify the hypothesis would be that there will be an indication that there is no change and that the change is too minute to be impactful.